Long before money as we know it existed, people still needed to trade. They needed a way to value goods and services. In many ancient civilizations, the answer was copper. This warm, reddish-brown metal was one of the first humans learned to work with. It was durable, easy to shape, and beautiful. Ancient Egyptians used copper rings and bars as a form of currency. They could be carried, stored, and exchanged for grain, livestock, or cloth. These were not coins, because they were not standardized. Their value came from their weight in metal, a system we call bullion. This simple idea of using a valuable material for trade was a huge step forward for human society. In the fertile lands of Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, a similar story unfolded. The Sumerians, Babylonians, and Assyrians all recognized the value of copper. They used standardized weights of copper, often in the form of rings or ingots, to conduct business. Merchants would carry scales with them to weigh the exact amount of copper needed for a transaction. This was a common sight in the bustling marketplaces of cities like Ur and Babylon. This system worked well for large purchases, but it was clumsy for smaller, everyday transactions. Imagine trying to buy a loaf of bread by chipping off a tiny piece of a heavy copper bar. It was a problem that needed a solution. Further east, in the Indus Valley civilization, archaeologists have found many copper artifacts. These include tools, weapons, and ornaments, but they also found small, flat copper plates. Some historians believe these plates were an early form of money. Like in Egypt and Mesopotamia, their value was likely based on their weight. In ancient China during the Zhou Dynasty, people also used copper, but they didn't just use simple bars or rings. They used bronze objects that looked like tools or shells. In particular, cowrie shells were highly valued, and people made imitations of these shells out of bronze, an alloy made mostly of copper. This was a key step towards the idea of a coin. These early uses of copper as money set the stage for one of the most important inventions in history, the coin. Using lumps of metal based on weight was a good start, but it was not very efficient. Every transaction required a set of scales. There was always a risk of being cheated with impure metal or inaccurate weights. People needed something better. They needed an object whose value was guaranteed, not just by its weight, but by an authority they could trust. The world was ready for a new kind of money, and the journey toward the first true coins was about to begin in ancient China. The world's first true coins did not look like the round pieces of metal we use today. They looked like tools. In China, during the Zhou Dynasty, which began around 1046 BC, a new form of money appeared. These were small bronze objects shaped like spades, the farming tools used to work the soil. At first, people may have used actual small spades for trade. Over time, these spades became smaller, thinner, and less practical as tools. They were made specifically for exchange. They were, in effect, coins. These spade coins often had inscriptions on them, indicating their place of origin or their value. This was a revolutionary idea. Alongside the spade money, another type of coin emerged, also shaped like a common object: a knife. These knife coins looked like the small knives that were common in that period. Just like the spade money, they started as real tools and gradually became symbolic items for trade. They were cast from bronze, which is mostly copper, and were easier to carry than a heavy bar of metal. The shape was familiar to everyone, which helped people accept them as money. Some of these knife coins were quite large and elaborate, with handles shaped like rings and long, curved blades. They were a clear sign that a powerful authority was creating a new system of currency. The creation of these strange-looking coins was a brilliant solution to the problems of early trade. Because they were cast in molds, thousands of them could be made to look almost identical. This was a form of standardization. While their value was still linked to the metal they contained, their shape and markings were a guarantee from the local ruler who issued them. A merchant no longer needed to bring his scales to the market for every small purchase. He could simply count out a number of spade or knife coins. This made trade faster, easier, and more reliable for everyone, from farmers to artisans. These early Chinese coins were a bridge between the old world of barter and the new world of a money economy. The shapes were clever. A spade represented agriculture, the foundation of the economy. A knife was a personal tool, something everyone carried. By making money that looked like these essential objects, the rulers of the Zhou Dynasty made the new currency feel familiar and trustworthy. It was a remarkable innovation. For the first time in history, we see objects that were not just valued for their material, but were designed, produced, and issued specifically to be used as money. The coin had been born. Why did China, and not Egypt or Mesopotamia, invent the coin? The answer lies in a unique combination of factors that came together during the Zhou Dynasty. First, China had vast natural resources. The lands along the Yellow River were rich in copper and tin, the two metals needed to make bronze. This abundance meant that the raw materials for making coins were readily available. Without a plentiful supply of metal, creating a large-scale currency system would have been impossible. This geological good fortune gave China a significant advantage over other ancient civilizations, where copper might have been scarcer or harder to obtain. Second, the Chinese had developed advanced metalworking technology. By the Zhou Dynasty, they were masters of bronze casting. They used sophisticated piece mold casting techniques to create intricate ritual vessels, weapons, and tools. This same technology could be easily adapted to produce large numbers of identical coins. Making thousands of spade and knife coins required a level of mass production that was only possible with this expertise. The ability to control the shape, size, and weight of each coin was crucial for creating a standardized currency that people could trust. This technological prowess was a key ingredient in the birth of coinage. Third, the political structure of the Zhou dynasty played a vital role. The kingdom was divided into many smaller states, each ruled by a local lord. These lords wanted to control their local economies and make trade within their territories easier. Issuing their own coins was a way to do this. It was also a way to show their power and authority. The inscriptions on spade and knife coins often name the city or state that made them. This competition between different states may have actually spurred the development and spread of coinage across the vast lands of ancient China. A strong, organized government, even at a local level, was needed to issue and guarantee the value of the new money. Finally, there was a growing economic need for a better form of money. As society became more complex, trade expanded. People needed to buy and sell small items more frequently. Barter was too inefficient, and carrying around scales and lumps of metal was inconvenient for everyday life. A small, portable, and standardized unit of value was required. Spade and knife coins filled this need perfectly. They were small enough for daily transactions but had enough value to be useful. The combination of abundant resources, advanced technology, a supportive political structure, and a clear economic need created the perfect storm for the invention of the coin in China. The diverse world of spade and knife coins came to an end with the rise of a powerful new dynasty. In 221 BC, Qin Shi Huang unified China for the first time, creating a vast empire. He was a ruthless and efficient ruler who believed in standardization. He standardized weights and measures, the width of roads, and even the writing system. And, most importantly for our story, he standardized money. He abolished all the old forms of currency, including the spades and knives of the Zhou era. In their place, he introduced a single unified coin for the entire empire, a round coin with a square hole in the middle, known as the Ban Liang. The design of the Ban Liang was simple but brilliant. The round shape represented heaven, while the square hole in the center represented the earth. This powerful symbolism connected the coin to Chinese cosmology, making it more than just a piece of metal. It was a symbol of the emperor's power over the earthly realm, under the mandate of heaven. The square hole also had a very practical purpose. It allowed the coins to be strung together on a cord. People could carry hundreds or even thousands of coins this way, making it easy to transport and count large sums of money. This design was so successful that it would be used for Chinese coins for the next 2,000 years. The name of the coin, Ban Liang, was also significant. The two characters inscribed on the coin literally mean half a liang. A liang was a unit of weight. This meant that the coin's name stated its official weight and, therefore, its value. This was another important step in building public trust. The government was guaranteeing that each coin contained a specific amount of bronze. While the actual weight of the coins could vary slightly, the principle was established. This was the world's first fully standardized and centrally issued currency, a model of monetary policy that was centuries ahead of its time. The introduction of the Ban Liang had a profound impact on China's economy. With a single, reliable currency used across the entire empire, trade flourished. Merchants could travel from one end of China to the other, confident that their money would be accepted everywhere. This economic unification helped to politically unify the new empire. The Ban Liang was more than just money. It was a tool of statecraft, a symbol of imperial power, and the engine of a newly integrated economy. Its simple, practical, and symbolic design laid the foundation for one of the world's most enduring monetary traditions. While China was developing its unique bronze coinage, a different story was unfolding in the West. In the ancient Greek world, around the 7th century BC, the first coins also appeared. But, they were very different from the cast bronze coins of China. The Greeks, particularly in Lydia, which is in modern-day Turkey, began making coins from electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver. These coins weren't cast in molds like the Chinese coins. Instead, they were struck. Basically, a heated blank piece of metal was placed between two dies, and one was hit with a hammer. This process created a sharp, detailed image on the coin, often of a god, a hero, or a symbol of the city-state that issued it. The Greeks, and later the Romans, did use copper and bronze, but they viewed it differently from the Chinese. For them, gold and silver were the most valuable metals, used for high-value coins like the drachma and the denarius. Copper and bronze were considered base metals, used for coins of much lower value. These were the small change of the Roman Empire, coins like the as or the sestertius, used for everyday purchases at the market. Unlike in China, where bronze was the standard for all coinage for centuries, in the Greco-Roman world, it was part of a tiered system of metals, with gold and silver at the top. The appearance of the coins also highlights a major cultural difference. Chinese coins, with their simple inscriptions and symbolic shapes, were abstract and functional. The value was guaranteed by the state, and the design reflected that authority in a non-personal way. Roman copper coins, on the other hand, were powerful tools of propaganda. They were stamped with detailed portraits of the reigning emperor. As these coins circulated throughout the vast empire, they carried the image of the ruler to every corner of his domain. It was a way of saying, "This is your emperor. He guarantees the value of this coin, and he is in charge." So, we see two parallel but very different journeys for copper coinage. In China, a single metal system based on cast bronze emerged early, driven by practicality and centralized authority. The design remained remarkably consistent for millennia. In the West, a multi-metal system developed, where copper played a secondary but essential role as the money of the people. The coins were struck, not cast, and their designs were a form of mass communication, celebrating gods and rulers. Both systems were incredibly successful, but they show how different cultures can find different solutions to the same fundamental problem, creating a trustworthy and convenient form of money. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century AD, Europe entered a long period of fragmentation. The continent's sophisticated monetary system collapsed. For several centuries, trade declined, and many regions reverted to barter. Silver became the primary metal for the few coins that were still being made by new Germanic kingdoms. Copper and bronze coinage largely disappeared from Western Europe. People hoarded old Roman bronze coins, but new ones were not being produced. It was honestly a step backward. The small change that had lubricated the Roman economy was gone, making everyday transactions difficult once again. This created a major problem for local markets and daily life. However, in the eastern part of the old Roman Empire, things were very different. The Byzantine Empire, with its capital in Constantinople, continued the Roman tradition of coinage without interruption. They minted beautiful gold coins, but they also produced a huge number of copper coins. The most famous of these was the phallus, a large copper coin reintroduced by the Emperor Anastasius in the late 5th century. These coins were essential for the bustling economy of the Byzantine world. They were stamped with the image of the emperor or Christian symbols, continuing the Roman tradition of using coins for propaganda, but now with a Christian message. Meanwhile, a new power was rising in the Middle East, the Numismatics Sour As the Islamic world expanded, it initially copied Byzantine and Persian coin designs, but soon, they developed their own unique style. Islamic coins, including the copper falls, did not have images of rulers. Instead, they were covered in beautiful Arabic script, quoting passages from the Quran and stating the name of the ruler and the date and place of minting. This aniconic, or non-image-based tradition was a major departure from the Roman and Byzantine style. Copper coins were minted in huge numbers across the Islamic world, from Spain to Central Asia, fueling a vibrant and sophisticated economy. By the later Middle Ages, around the 13th and 14th centuries, copper coins began to make a comeback in Western Europe. As trade revived and towns grew, the need for small change became urgent once more. Italian city-states like Venice and Florence, and kingdoms like France, began to issue their own small copper or low-grade silver coins, often called black money because of their dark color. These coins were not as large or standardized as the Roman or Byzantine ones, but they served a vital purpose. They allowed ordinary people to participate in the growing market economy. The humble copper coin was once again becoming an essential part of daily life. The Industrial Revolution, which began in Great Britain in the late 18th century, changed the world, and it also changed money. Before this period, coins were made by hand or with simple screw presses. The process was slow, and the quality could be inconsistent. This led to a chronic shortage of small change, especially copper coins. To fill the gap, many private businesses and towns started issuing their own copper tokens. These tokens were widely used, but they were not official government money. The situation was, honestly, chaotic. The British government needed a modern solution to a modern problem. The solution came from an engineer and entrepreneur named Matthew Boulton. In 1788, he built a new factory in Soho, Birmingham, equipped with state-of-the-art steam-powered coin presses. These machines were truly revolutionary. They could strike coins with incredible speed, precision, and uniformity. Boulton's presses used a collar to ensure every coin was perfectly round, and the steam power allowed for high-pressure striking, creating sharp, detailed designs that were difficult to counterfeit. He had, in effect, invented the modern mint. The British government was so impressed that they gave him a contract to produce the nation's first official copper coinage in decades. In 1797, Boulton's Soho Mint produced a magnificent new set of copper coins, the 1 penny and 2 penny pieces. These coins were huge and heavy, earning them the nickname cartwheels. The penny weighed exactly 1 ounce, and the 2pence weighed 2 ounces. Their intrinsic value in copper was equal to their face value. They were beautiful coins, featuring a regal portrait of King George III on one side, and the figure of Britannia, seated by the sea, on the other. This was the first time Britannia had appeared on a British coin, and she would become a powerful symbol of the nation and its naval power. These coins were a statement of industrial might and national pride. The cartwheel penny set a new standard for coinage worldwide. The technology of the steam-powered press spread quickly to other countries, including the United States, which established its own mint in 1792 and began producing large copper cents. For the first time, governments could produce enough small change to meet the needs of their rapidly growing industrial economies. The copper coin, once a simple cast object in ancient China, had become a mass-produced high-tech product. It was the reliable, everyday money that fueled the factories, shops, and homes of the modern industrial world, all thanks to the power of steam. For most of history, the value of a copper coin was tied to the value of the copper it contained. Matthew Boulton's cartwheel penny was a perfect example, weighing a full ounce of the metal. However, during the 20th century, this ancient link was broken. The price of copper, like other raw materials, began to rise dramatically. This created a serious problem for governments. The value of the metal in the coin was becoming worth more than the face value of the coin itself. When this happens, people will melt down coins to sell the raw metal, causing the coins to disappear from circulation. A new approach was needed. The solution was to move away from pure copper and use copper alloys instead. An alloy is a mixture of metals. By mixing a small amount of another metal, like tin or zinc, with copper, governments could create a new material that was cheaper but still looked and felt like a traditional copper coin. This is how bronze, which is copper and tin, and brass, which is copper and zinc, became common materials for coinage. These alloys were also harder and more durable than pure copper, meaning the coins would last longer in circulation. This was a practical and economic decision that almost every country in the world eventually made. A famous example of this change is the Lincoln cent in the United States. From 1909 to 1982, the penny was made of 95% copper. But as copper prices soared in the 1970s and early 1980s, the U.S. Mint had to act. In 1982, they changed the composition of the penny to a core of zinc, with a very thin plating of pure copper. The coin still looked like a copper penny, but it was now made of 97.5% zinc. This change saved the government millions of dollars in metal costs and ensured the penny remained in circulation. Many other countries followed similar paths, replacing solid copper or bronze coins with cheaper copper-plated steel or zinc versions. Today, very few coins in the world are made of pure copper. The reddish coins in our pockets are almost all copper alloys or copper-plated metals. The euro coins, for example, use an alloy called Nordic gold, which contains no gold, for the 10, 20, and 50-cent pieces, giving them a golden color, but their main ingredient is copper. The age of the pure copper coin has largely passed. Money is now fiat currency, meaning its value is based on trust in the government that issues it, not on the material it is made from. The journey of the copper coin has moved from intrinsic value to purely symbolic value. The story of the copper coin is, in many ways, the story of money itself. From its earliest days, copper was the perfect metal for the job. It was plentiful enough to be used on a massive scale, yet valuable enough to be desirable. It was soft enough to be easily worked, first by casting in ancient China, and later by striking in the West, yet durable enough to survive centuries of exchange from hand to hand. Its distinctive reddish color made it instantly recognizable. These fundamental properties are why so many different civilizations, separated by vast distances and thousands of years, all turn to copper to create the small change that is the lifeblood of any economy. We have seen its remarkable journey through history. It began with the ingenious tool-shaped money of Zhou China, the first true coins the world had ever seen. This was followed by the brilliant standardization of the Qin dynasty's Ban Liang, a design so perfect it lasted for 2 millennia. We saw how the Greeks and Romans used copper as the money of the people, spreading the emperor's image across the known world. In the Middle Ages, it was the Byzantine and Islamic worlds that kept the tradition of copper coinage alive, before it was reborn in Europe to fuel the growth of towns and trade. The Industrial Revolution marked a turning point, with steam power allowing for the mass production of uniform coins, like the iconic British penny. This new technology solved the age-old problem of small change shortages and helped power a new global economy. Finally, in the 20th and 21st centuries, as the price of the metal itself outstripped the face value of the coins, pure copper gave way to clever alloys and plated metals. This final step completed the transformation of the coin from an object of intrinsic value to a purely symbolic token of trust in the issuing authority. The humble copper coin has been with us for over 2,500 years. It has been shaped by technology, from the simple clay molds of ancient China to the steam-powered presses of industrial Britain. It has been a mirror of culture, reflecting the abstract philosophy of the East and the personal propaganda of the West. It has been a tool of power, unifying empires and building economies. Even today, as we move towards a world of digital payments, the reddish glint of a copper coin in our pocket connects us to this long and fascinating history. It is a small but powerful reminder of the journey of an idea that changed the world.